the plenary hall, Comrade Khalima, as the chairperson, in his capacity as the chairperson of the Electoral Committee, was to proceed with the additional business, electoral business of conference. This includes nominations of additionals. You would recall that in the processes leading up to this national conference, there was a list of top 200 that was published. It was later amended to top 240. Cadres were sent forms to either confirm or decline their nomination. They've duly received all of the acceptance forms and are now reading the list to plenary. Those that contested to be in the officials and did not make it will automatically be added to the list of additionals. Of course, there are others who had qualified to be in the additionals, both as additionals and as officials, so they will be added in the ballot paper for additional members. Once the printing of the ballot paper is done, like we did with national officials, delegates will then proceed to cast their votes, drawn in from, if they will be in commissions, from commission halls or rooms according to their own provinces. So that's where we are. We are still committed to ensuring that this conference is a resounding success. Doesn't collapse in our hands. We maintain the unity of the rest of our members, our delegates, and everyone else who's taking interest in how we are running this conference. So the leadership, outgoing, ourselves have already been disbanded, but as you know, in my role as national spokesperson, I've got to steer the communications ship up until the NEC decides, the newly elected leadership decide who must do this work. So the Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, has requested that we continue interacting with yourselves in this way. But also the conference has got the steering committee. We are still part of that steering committee, heading the media team there on the steering committee of conference. So there's no crisis at all. I had thought that Comrade Dagota would assist me, but ever since we started, it has been quite difficult because it's also involved in other organizational responsibilities, which makes it difficult for him to come and perform these other tasks. So the next round of the open session will make you aware well in time. We are trying to check if we can have that open hour that we had previously promised, seeing that tomorrow is the last day of the national conference, just to allow members of the media to interact with delegates and all of that, because some of you have made that request. If there are any questions that you may want to ask, you are welcome to do so, just on the proceedings. Yes, Os Natasha? You can also ask about me because now it's different because results have been announced. So,
yeah, good afternoon.
I was worried that if it was asked yesterday, I did not want to think that I'm using the space for campaigning. So okay. That's why I was a bit cautious. But now it's done, we can talk.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, now that the results are announced, how are you feeling? I think you were hoping to be elected, perhaps, but Ausgwen was elected as TG. How are you feeling? How do you feel generally about the newly elected top 7? Thank you.
Another question?
Inayat Wari from Salam Media. A key focus of this conference was organizational renewal, and was the top 7 in place in terms of furthering the ambition of organizational renewal, how is it likely to play out?
How is the renewal?
How is it likely to play out in terms of going forward as far as organizational renewal of the African National Congress goes?
Okay.
From this side, Moloto from ANC, I just want to know what went wrong in your assessment with your campaign for TG, especially given the fact that it was in the 11th hour and I think some of the delegates had already begun voting. Do you think that perhaps you took too long before you could combine forces with Masina? And that is the reason why you could not emerge. But I also would like to ask, it's just to seek clarity, those who contested for the officials' positions and did not make it, you did say that automatically they are eligible to be elected as NEC members. What about those who declined nomination? If you can just clarify that. And lastly, do you know where was the former President Jacob Zuma in there? I didn't see him personally. Do you know if he was in the plenary now when the results were announced? Thank you.
Pule, this is Christian from Netwerk 24 speaking. I would just like to know, how does it work now? Do you continue to be spokesperson for the ANC, and do you intend to be spokesperson for the ANC for the next 5 years? Thank you.
Pule, yeah, Slindalo Masiganda from ENCA. I know yesterday the media had requested to have a briefing with the outgoing top 6. Can we expect one with the one that's been,
With the
newly elected top 7? Thank you.
Okay, no, thanks. Just to maybe to start off with your question, I've already I spoke to the president earlier on and the DP, in this instance, Comrade Paul Mashatile. So, and suggested that we do what we've been doing. Those of you who have covered our provincial conferences, you will know that halfway, especially after election of officials, by now I would be coming to the press room with them. So I raised that. The president then suggested that perhaps it would be prudent to do that engagement at the conclusion of the national conference, accompanied with the declaration. His commitment is that we don't just have to talk as the leadership, we also have got to say what are the key resolutions taken by this national conference. I have never taken the question of standing for positions of responsibility in the ANC personally. I don't invest emotions in campaigns. The leadership of the ANC will come and go. The ANC will remain. For me personally, it was never about merging numbers. It doesn't mean that very often when we see results of elections and those that voted for us, we don't see their names, we see the numbers. It doesn't mean that with those numbers, if they did not vote for Masina, they would have voted for me. No. Because numbers don't have names of people next to them. They are just that, they are numbers. So I don't want to stand here and start behaving like an angry girlfriend and say, no, here, no. Doesn't work like that. Comrade Masina had the courage himself to come and stand in front of the media and said, remember, he did not withdraw, he demobilized. So demobilizing and withdrawing are not the same. He demobilized and because his name was still on the ballot paper. So it meant that someone that might not have met him in the process of demobilizing and still thought that he is still standing would have gone into the voting station and voted. But it's all said and done now. We've got the leadership of the ANC. We have to rally behind this leadership.
The president of the ANC has come back as the president, Fikile Mbalula elected as Secretary General, but one man who was pretty much in others seen as a chief campaigner of President Cyril Ramaphosa in KwaZulu-Natal is Mzwandile Mkhwanazi, former regional chairperson of the Lower South Coast region, former PEC member. Mr. Mkhwanazi, I see you are a branch delegate from Lower South Coast.
I belong to the branch, and we want to say today ANC has won. No individual has really emerged. We want to congratulate Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa for really winning this one, and just to congratulate the entire ANC for the achievement that we have done, because for the first time we are going to have 3 women in the officials. That alone is an achievement. So in any elective conference, there are those who don't emerge, and there are those who emerge. And we want to congratulate them. And Cyril Ramaphosa is there for the second term, and we hope all of those who have different views, they are going to rally behind this noble view that the ANC has spoken, and that is how we were taught by the organization.
Mr. Mkhwanazi, how did you pull off this win without the support of the biggest province, your home province, KwaZulu-Natal? And how many delegates were you able to get from that province to vote for the president for his second term?
You know what? That kind of a response will be divisive to my own province. We came, we were known, and that we supported Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, but that doesn't mean that we must be triumphalist and keep on repeating that these are the numbers that we had, these are numbers that we did not have. The bigger responsibility now is to unite this organization, which is a revolutionary movement. No one is going to be a triumphalist out of this thing. ANC has won.
You are here. This man here did not go with the provincial mandate to vote for Dr. Zweli Mkhize. He voted for Cyril Ramaphosa. You've lost out in this conference. What happened?
No, that's what you don't understand. This is right. Comrade Mzwandile is my friend. For example, the provincial conference, they voted other people, but he voted me. Then I knew that I know his views, that on the president was going to vote, but on other people is going to vote. I knew that he voted Mbalula and all that. We knew. You see, it's ANC, we're friends. We share views together.
Mr. Mtolo, you're the biggest delegation here. What transpired? Once again, in 2017, you walked away with nothing. 2022, you again walk away with nothing in the officials.
What do you mean we work with nothing? We have worked with Cyril. We have worked with Paul. We have worked with Gwede. We have worked with Mbalula. We have worked with Nomvula. We have worked with Maruping. We have worked with Gwen. What we have worked with nothing. We have worked with leaders of the ANC elected by branches. We have not worked with nothing. We have not worked with nothing. We have worked with leaders of the ANC.
So you're somersaulting?
I'm not somersaulting. We are somersaulting. You are somersaulting. Whenever you want us to not accept the results of the of a democratically elected leadership, here we're there. We sent observers. This provides no tensions. Everything was smooth. We campaigned. We did everything. But branches of the ANC elected Cyril, elected Paul, elected Gwede, elected Mbalula, elected Nomvula, elected Marupin. That's branches of the ANC. We know that. Then we have come out with leadership, not intended.
Going forward, what are you going to do going towards the next conference, particularly knowing this is the second time around KZN is not represented?
I'm not even sure we will be still alive in the next conference. It's very far. What we'll do 2023, February, we'll call a PC Lekota to plan for elections, and we'll call our Secretary General, Vuta Balula, to come and present an election strategy. We develop an election program. Then after that, he give us marching orders as the Secretary General, and we hit the ground running to do it.
Previously, you've worked with Mbalula in the ANC Youth League. Are you happy that he's the Secretary General? Are you energetic that he's going to be able to revive the organization?
We have made history. In this conference, one thing that you must know, we've made history. That we've developed a Secretary General who comes from the Youth League, who was once a Secretary General of the Youth League and the President of the Youth League.
Thank you very much, Mr. Begimdolo. That is the Provincial Secretary of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm just going to bring in the ANC Youth League from that province. So, Mr. Mnguni, just a response from your province. You've seemingly not gotten an official as KwaZulu-Natal. Where to from here?
Well, you'd understand we have to finish up with the conference processes first, and then we go back home. We go back to our branches and report back. But obviously, we need to unite our base. We need to unite our branches. We need to unite our communities in KwaZulu-Natal. It's branches of the African National Congress that have sent us here and given us a mandate to come and support Comrade Zwelim Mkhize. But we must accept the outcomes of the National Conference. It was the conference of the National Conference of the African National Congress with all branches coming from the length and breadth of South Africa. So we are accepting the outcome and we are going back to convince our branches to also accept the outcome and be able to work for the African National Congress.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kunisabune. Just to get the last response from the spokesperson of President Cyril Ramaphosa in government, Mr. Magwenya, you tweeted earlier on this morning that renewal is on course and preempting that the president was getting a second term. From the office of the presidency in the union buildings, how are you feeling with the president of the ANC being re-elected as president of the governing party?
No, that tweet was an expression of optimism. It was not a preemption of the results, so don't mislead the public. But we feel nonetheless extremely energized that the president will be able to accelerate the institutional reforms as well as the economic reforms that he has initiated and undertaken. And some of those reforms, Samgelo, you'll be aware, have started bearing fruits. And so the president is quite energized, and we are all around him energized, in that we will be able to sustain and take that work forward for the benefit of the country.
Mr. Magwenya, at some point the president lost the support of key figures in the Northwest Province, Nono Moloi, in Limpopo, Stan Mathabata, Florence Lazilani, Biskop Makamo, Gauteng, the likes of Lebogang Maile, who are linked to Treasurer General Paul Mashatile, now Deputy President. Did he at some point feel scared, as if he was losing the conference?
No, Samgelo, we will leave those issues to astute observers like yourselves. The president takes his guide from branch members of the governing party, who overwhelmingly, during the nomination round, expressed the very same sentiment that has just been affirmed here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent Magwenya. That is the spokesperson of the president in government, Mr. Vincent Magwenya, essentially saying that the president is very happy with the outcome and that it was expressed by the governing party in the various structures in the nomination processes going towards this conference. Delegates are now going out and having a lunch break as they're going to go back into conference plenary to nominate the 80 additional members of the National Executive Committee. There is a list of 200 members that have met it through branch nominations, but there's also going to be an opportunity for nominations from the floor. I'm going to ask my colleague Tabiso just to show you visuals of the delegates coming out of the conference plenary as we link towards the briefing currently taking place by Mr. Pule Mabe.
So the media must be happy that getting someone like Mbalula as a Secretary General is going to mean that you are going to have more voice of the ANC coming from that office of authority. So you save spokespersons. You know, there were times when I spoke to yourselves and you asked me things that would have been difficult, that wanted decisions. So, Lenalo Votano.
I don't know if Mr. Mabe, thank you. Just to clarify, please, what is the way forward on NEC determinations now, if you can help us out with that one? Then on the 2 voting candidates who were found taking photos, will they be disciplined? Do they continue to stand as good members in good standing of the ANC? And then there was an announcement, I believe it was by head of elections, Kgalema Motlanthe, former president, on reporting any attempted bribery to police. Do you know of any reports that have been made to police on attempted bribery of voting delegates? And then just a final parting shot, please. We did ask if we could get a little drive around in one of your golf carts to show what the mood is amongst delegates. If, as a parting gift,
you want to
you'd
do
be
what?
open to do that. Take a drive with one of the golf carts around the precinct to see the mood amongst delegates as a parting gift, please. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's fine. I will talk to the team, and then it will be part of that open session that we want to do. I'll talk to the team so that we can arrange. Okay, can I just say this? The idea really of coming in here was to give you an update of where we are in terms of the program. The SG has requested that we work on a briefing possibly at 2 o'clock. Let me not take away the shine from the Secretary General. Let's allow our newly elected Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, to come and engage with yourselves and make whatever determinations that he may want to make. By the way, we are dissolved ourselves. I'm just a caretaker, communicator of the ANC. Okay, I thought those questions meant that you release me. Because now that I'm dissolved, it also means disbanded. The NEC has been dissolved. It means that, and we now have got officials.
The ANC has, you can see the delegates there celebrating the victory of their president. Mr. Lamula, just your reaction on the re-election of the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yeah, we congratulate the president and we believe it's good for the country, for the program of renewal, the economy, to deal with corruption and many other issues, the land question and many challenges that the country is facing, including the challenge of electricity. So it's a good work and we accept the outcome.
Looking at the composition of the top 7, he got 5 officials out of the 7, particularly from your perspective of the slate that he was linked to. Does this further embolden him and his grip over the party?
Yeah, obviously there can't be triumphalism, but I think the outcome is what the delegates have expressed is what we must accept, and the delegates who can move forward to rebuild the organization.
Do you regret not backing down earlier on and not being on the ballot paper so that Oscar Mabuyane could emerge? Because if your 300 votes went to Mr. Mabuyane, he would have emerged as the deputy president from your core.
No, I have no regrets. I think me standing on principle was important to inspire a younger generation across the country that the ANC belongs to young people, it belongs to everyone. So I do believe that I've paved the way for them who are coming behind me, that they can lead the ANC. And I'm glad that Comrade Marupin Ntuli, I served with in the National Executive Committee of the Youth League, has emerged. So I do think that it's a good balance, there's a good generational mix, and it was not about me. But it is important that younger generations of the ANC get inspired and they see this as their organization. 2
former Youth League leaders have emerged. Fikile Mbalula, the former president and SG of the Youth League, Marupin Ramokgopa, now the second Deputy General Secretary. What does this say going towards the next conference of the ANC and its youthfulness?
Yeah, it does show that that transition of a generation that we have been speaking about is beginning to find shape in the ANC. And Comrade Bucks, I do believe he will be a very good SG and will continue to lead this organization very well with the collective.
Ronald Lamola, can you tell us about the call from the president yesterday and his request for you to withdraw and why you chose not to withdraw?
No, those are confidential discussions which I will never divulge in the public platform.
Did you consider withdrawing?
Obviously, when you are in conference, you must be flexible. There have been discussions, which is true, that there were discussions with all provinces, leadership and so forth. So from time to time, you will be persuaded to do this or that. But it is what it is now. We embrace the outcome and let the organization proceed.
What are your thoughts around the succession planning of the ANC?
Yeah, it is an important principle which I had to stand to continue with it, so that the younger generation should see that the ANC is for all of us and that the ANC must have a way to find a succession plan. This is a too big organization. It can't shock the country. For a week now, the whole country is on standstill, people not knowing what is going to happen. This is too big. We must be predictable. There must be clarity. We must have succession planning so that the country does not undergo what we have undergone. I mean, everyone now has been on tenterhooks, whether it's the economy, whether it's social, whether it's political. So we need to have a succession plan. That will give an indication. And I think the proper mixture that we had from the top 7 now will give the ANC a good foundation going forward, including with the upcoming additional members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Lamula. That is Ronald Lamula, ANC NEC member, celebrating the victory of the ANC president, saying that he had to stand as deputy president on a matter of principle in order to inspire younger generations. What is interesting is that Fikile Mbalula in 2012 in Mangaung contested Gwede Mantashe as the ANC's Secretary General and lost out in that conference. But as time went on, this time around he is lucky. He did come back as the president, as the Secretary General rather, of the African National Congress. But now I am going to speak to Mr. Xolile Nqatha, who comes from the Eastern Cape, who is a PEC member and who comes from the SACP. Mr. Nqatha, how are you feeling from the Communist Party perspective on the ANC conference thus far and the outcome of the results?
No, the SACP as a provincial spokesperson and a national spokesperson. The ANC yes has got a spokesperson. I'm just a delegate.
Your boss
that's another thing which you must master as we renew, that the protocol must be allowed. Not everybody must speak.
So you don't want to speak?
No, I can't speak. I'm not a spokesperson.
That is Mr. Xolile Nqatha, who is the provincial secretary of the SACP in the Eastern Cape and also the MEC of transport within that province, who is part of those who are in the executive of government. But I'm just going to quickly bring in Mr. Gift Ngondi, who is the spokesperson for the Eastern Cape province. Sir, just the response of the Eastern Cape. Your chairperson, Oscar Mabuyane, did not make it as deputy president. The results have come out. How are you feeling as the Eastern Cape?
The ANC has won. Yeah. The ANC has won. Remember, we are a unitary organization. Yes, our ambitions and intention was to ensure that Comrade Oscar Mabuyane ascends to the office of the deputy president. But the delegates have spoken, democracy has spoken, but most importantly, our agenda in our program has been affirmed by that conference because comrades that we wanted to be in that leadership have been elected into that leadership. Most importantly also that Comrade Cyril ascended again to ensure that renewal agenda continues, the unity project continues in the ANC.
Mr. Zolile Williams, the provincial treasurer of the Eastern Cape province. I'm sorry, but seniority. Mr. Xolile Williams, your boss in government, Oscar Mabuyane, is no longer leaving Talata House in the Eastern Cape. He's staying as a provincial chairperson. Look, going forward as the Eastern Cape, you only got Kwere Mantashe in the officials. The plan going forward, what are you going to do looking at the continuity and also succession planning within the governing party?
No, it was not about provincial representation in the national officials. It's about a collective that is going to represent the ANC across the country. So we're very happy with the outcome of this conference and that the renewal agenda is still on the radar screen. And I think the country is celebrating that the president has been returned to office. And we're continuing with the renewal, we're continuing with dealing with corruption, we're dealing with state capture and all the negatives because we're building towards 2024. And I think the South African community is very pleased with the outcome. And as the Eastern Cape, we're fully behind the leadership of the president and the collective that has been elected with him.
Mr. Zolile Williams, but looking at the outcome, Ronald Lamula, if he had withdrawn through the negotiations we're having with Mpumalanga, Oscar Mabuyane may have emerged as deputy president with the votes that Ronald Lamula got, the over 300 votes. How did your negotiations break down with Mr. Lamula?
No, I won't regard that as a breakdown of negotiations. I would term it the nuances of the conference and the complexities that you find as you negotiate what is the suitable leadership to take over. And my view is that although we know that Comrade Lamula withdrew, but maybe some of the delegates did not agree to that and then they voted otherwise. That's why we lost. But we're moving on. We are confident about the leadership and our provincial chairperson is in good spirits, happy. We are moving on. We also appreciate that he's returned to the province because we've got huge backlogs and tasks and he remains the future of the ANC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zolile Williams, who is the provincial treasurer of the ANC in the Eastern Cape. I am now going to go and try Mr. Faiz Jacobs there, who is coming from the Western Cape province, who is also the former provincial secretary of the ANC in the Western Cape. Mr. Faiz Jacobs.
How are you doing?
Your coordinator was raised as the second deputy general secretary. What happened?
Look, that wasn't a Western Cape position. We were very clear. We supported from the beginning, from CR17 to CR22, we always supported our president. We believed in him and we continue to push the renewal agenda. And I think we are very happy, we're over the moon, that our president has very decisively, very emphatically showed and demonstrated the confidence of all of our branches. And it is a unity and renewal vote of confidence in the presidency. We are overly pleased with the results. I think it demonstrates the internal democracy of the African National Congress when there's competing different interests and we come together. So we are overly very, very excited. Today we're taking a moment to celebrate our collective consensus. Tomorrow we'll deal with the challenges that we have in the ANC.
Mr. Jacobs, when you look at the victory as opposed to what transpired in 2017, this time around he comes out of the election of the officials more emboldened, having received 5 people within the officials, including himself, out of the 7. 2 belong to the other perspective. Does this further strengthen his grip over the governing party?
Look, I think the president is consolidated and we celebrate that. But I think what we need to do now more than ever is not them and us. We now have the top 7 and we must unite around all of them. I want to congratulate Comrade Paul Mashatile as our deputy, and he will continue to be part of the presidency collective. And also, I also want to give thanks to Mama Action. And in that whole collective, we must work together. We all rallied. We all had our different preferences. We all had our favorites. But now that leadership represents us as the ANC. So let's rally, let's defend, let's consolidate around that. And I don't want to have this thing about them and us. We are one ANC now. And when we all celebrate this leadership, let's rally around them. So that's the key thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Faiz Jacobs. I was just seeing Mr. Wali Rueda, who is part of Cyril Ramaphosa's protection detail, who is linked to issues pertaining to the Phala Phala Section 89 report and the dollars that were found in his home. He's just gone through and tried and put him through for a quick interview, but we're unable to. But back to you in studio, Naledi, until we get further ANC officials and leaders coming towards this side.
Thank you so much for that. Samkele Maseko speaking to us, giving us live reactions on the ground here at Nasrec as a result of the top 7 of the African National Congress being announced earlier today. And let's get more reaction from our very own political editor, Mr. Mzwandile Mbeje. Good afternoon to you. It's been a long 4 days.
Well, in fact, I said earlier, the conference has almost finished because most people came here to make sure that they get the leadership that they wanted. But of course, they're still going to vote for the NEC. And yeah, it's been a long 4 days. And then here we are now, a brand new top 7. It used to be top 6. So yeah, I guess we'll wait and see how they perform.
Yeah, you were making a point a little bit earlier about how the tension has lifted. Because it was a tense the first 3 days here, but we didn't know where it was going to go. The air seems lighter here because the decision has been made by the party. But let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that you raised as well while we were off air, about how it perhaps isn't so surprising that you see President Cyril Ramaphosa still at the helm of the party, because you talk about what a leader within the African National Congress really still has in his first term.
You know, I think, let's be honest, he had 2,000 nominations, and then as Willem Kize had 900 nominations. So yes, nominations are not necessarily the votes, but that is the clearest indication of where you're going. Even if the teams Willem Kize were to be able to convince other people otherwise, you honestly are not going to be able to sway the entire 1,000 people. So it was almost a foregone conclusion based on the nominations. But of course, things keep changing. But also, Naledi, as we were speaking earlier, it's very difficult to unseat the incumbent, especially on his or her first term. Because there's so many things that are linked to you being an incumbent, directly or indirectly. By virtue of being an incumbent, by virtue of him being the president of the country, there's a lot of patronage. Just the system is such that there would be a lot of patronage as well. And also, besides patronage, there would also be an element of saying the other presidents have been given 2 terms. Why now? And do you want to start the tradition of recalling or of contesting the presidents out of office on their first term, and perhaps create the instability, especially as the ANC is going through all these difficulties? So yes, they were within their rights to contest because their constitution allows it, but sometimes there would be those unwritten rules that people ordinarily abide by. They would say, well, we understand, perhaps we are not happy with this or that, but let him or her
Yeah.
have his term.
I want us to, we're going to take a break, but what I'd like for us to come back and continue with our political editor, Mzwandile Mpeche, really just analyze some of the numbers, right? How different could they have been? Could very small things have taken place in the run-up to the election of the top 7 of the ANC? Stay with us, we're back in a moment.